Have you ever wondered how Afrobeats music gets its thump and its log drum sound? In this video, I'm going to show you how to achieve the Afrobeat commercial sound. This is AlexProMix. Let's go. Hey guys, and welcome back to AlexProMix. Here, your favorite channel on YouTube to learn all things stereo mixing and mastering and Dolby mixing and mastering. My name is Alex. I've worked with a number of labels, and I've had the privilege to work with some key artists in the Afrobeat music world from Nigeria, from South Africa, from UK, and from the US based Afro artists. And one of the things that I appreciate about the music is the vibe. It just has such a really killer vibe, especially when it's combined with some lovely R&B lyrics. And not to get me, don't get me wrong, all right? Some of the rapping is cool, but I just love the R&B feel with the Afrobeat style. And so in this video, I'm gonna show you how I achieve the thump on the kick that you often hear on Afrobeats music, as well as how to EQ and process the log drum. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me show you an example. For this session, we have a mix, which is a song by Duncan Daniels featuring Damola, the violinist, and a female artist. Let me go ahead and play this from the top. Here we go.
Girl, already fit to pass your test. For your classy, I go carry fast. I'm guilty and I must confess. Your love, it bust my mind. And I don't wanna give you stress anymore. Girl, come let me undress me more. Make you know the vex anymore. Cause I don't wanna start all over. It took a while, but now I'm sober. Girl, it's only you that I'm wanting. Yeah, you got me high on a strong team. No longer a Casanova. I won't risk us getting over. Girl, it's only you that I'm wanting. Yeah, you got me high on a strong team.
All right, cool. So the thing that I want to focus on is the drum loop and the log drum. Now, if you don't know what a log drum is, it's basically this sound right here that you hear in a lot of Afrobeats music. And when you combine that with the drums, you get this killer, killer, killer groove. Cool, so the question is, how do you EQ that so they can fit in the mix and you don't have like this weird sub low end, like killing your compressors and all that stuff? How do you get a thump and how do you get the bass in there in the mix? So I'm gonna show you exactly how I do it, and hopefully you guys learn and pick up a couple of techniques. All right, so first of all, let's start with the drums. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna bypass all the plugins on the drums and on the log drum, okay? Now, the drums here, I'll go ahead and solo that for you. The drum loop is already pre-mixed, whether it was done in FL, Cubase, Studio One, I don't know. The drums were already pre-mixed and these sound good already. But I felt that it was missing a little bit more bump, okay? And so this is one of the techniques that I use to create more bump on the low end for Afrobeats music. First of all, I like to add EQ in the right places. What I mean by that is, you'll find a lot of videos on YouTube that show you how to use subtractive EQ. If you have resonant, nasty frequencies on a track or vocals, you find that frequency, you bring it down, and then you clean up the vocals or the instrument. But in this case, you know, like there's nothing like frequency-wise that's like resonant on the drum kit necessarily. But what I want to do is I want to like boost up the right amount of energy that's already there in the track. And for that, I like to use the matte Santa Cruz EQ. This is a particular type of equalizer that is not your API. This is not your Fab Filter Pro Q, which I love. This is not, you know, like your Pultec emulation. This thing just like sounds so unique to itself, all right? And it works like any other EQ, but it has a particular sound that I like for boosting frequencies, all right? I would not use this to find a resonant frequency and cut sub low ends or anything like that. I use this to actually boost energy where the energy is. So just to give you guys an idea, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click on this parameter and you guys are gonna hear the frequencies that I'm boosting. Okay, so that's basically like the low end. Let's hear this frequency, which is going to be around 800, 750 hertz. And that's kind of like a little bit of the punch of the percussive elements. And then I'm also boosting the high end, which is a shelf EQ set around 7K. And that's going to enhance the percussive elements that are already there on the track. And these boosts are very small, 2 dB, 2 dB, 2.3, okay? Again, nothing surgical, but what I'm doing is basically like enhancing the musicality or the energy that's already there on the track. Cool. Now, to get that thump, I like to use this plugin right here, which is called Chop Shop. Now, back in the day, when this first came out, I was doing videos for Plugin Alliance. So if you guys saw the original introductory video for this, you guys might recognize me or my voice. But what I like about this plugin is this feature right here that nobody talks about. And this is called the low rider. Now, the low rider is used to enhance sub-low frequencies, but I like to use it in a different way that other people use it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll copy this plugin, I'll bypass it, that way I don't lose my settings, because wouldn't that be bad? All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys like how I use it to like create this sub-low bump that like always works, and it works so good. All right, first of all, default settings, I'm going to enable the low cut filter or high pass filter. I'm going to click on this button and hit low rider. Okay, this is going to isolate this frequency. So with these two buttons engaged, with the low cut and the low rider set to solo, basically when I sweep the low frequency, I'm able to like isolate like where I'm going to dial that in. And what I'm listening for is like, I want to be able to feel that low end on the kick. All right, so let's go ahead and hit play and sweep this frequency. So somewhere around 60-ish, if it's up here, I don't know if that's 65 or 70 because there's no like written, information there, but somewhere around there. So that's the first step, is like finding the right frequency where you want to boost. Then you switch this off to mix mode, and then you adjust how much of that low bump you want to add to the audio source. Now with low end, it's super easy to overdo and make it sound bad, which is why in my studio, I like my monitoring system, if you guys have watched any of my videos, is a 714 configuration for Dolby Atmos. So everything that I do is over here on this renderer. And I have 2 subwoofers and full range speakers. So there's a particular like low end that I feel when I'm sitting here at the mix position of when it sounds right. If you're on headphones, then you have to do some trickery like use frequency analyzers, right? Or if you're on speakers, you just have to know your speakers. You have to know your monitoring setup. But in my system, I can like judge the low end based on the energy response coming from the subwoofers and from the full range speakers. So the final result that I ended up in, just about there with a little bit of mix. And this enhances the low end that's already on the kick. So I'll exaggerate this a little bit, but I'll play with and without. Here we go. See, like right there, like the kick is audible, but it's not felt. It's not super like subby and round. And right there, it's just like always constant. It's like adding a kick sample on top of this mix. So that right there gives me that bump that I want. Now there's another thing that I like to do on drums, especially if they're loops like this, which is adding T-Puncher. And T-Puncher is made by a company called Tech Evasion. I have a course on my website that just covers all their plugins suite. You guys can check that out at AlexProMix.com/courses. And I have a full course on this and other courses as well. And the way this works is that you choose the frequency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit solo and basically dial in the frequency range where I want to add punch. And I remember, because this is a loop, I don't have like the kick separate or the snare separate or the percussion or the other percussive instruments. Then I'm able to use something like this to kind of broadly boost that frequency range. So this area right there of the loop, I'm gonna boost. So I'm gonna take it off solo and I'm gonna increase the punchiness. Here we go. you hear that click now because it's, you know, overly done. Somewhere around 32% is cool. Now let's hear the before and after. This is without all the plugins. And with. And in the track, here we go. So that drum loop, which we have no access to the kick and the snare and all the individual tracks, now has that low bump. It's got energy being boosted by the EQ, and it's got extra transient information or punch by T-Puncher. Cool, our drums are locked in. Now let's figure out how to dial in the log drum. All right, so right above here is the log drum. And this is what it sounded like before any processing. Okay, now the first mistake that I see people make on mixing the log drum is that they end up adding bass. Remember, we added the low bump on the drums, so we don't need that 60 Hertz frequency boost on the bass. No, we need to give it contrast, and it needs to cut through the mix inside of a bassy mix, all right? And so the first thing that I'll do, in particular to the log drum, is use T-Imager. And T-Imager, let's go ahead and change this to 1x sampling because we don't need 4x. And let's go ahead and increase this. And the way this works, you're going to go to my website and watch the courses because I'm not going to explain it, but I'll just give you the end result. This is what it sounded like before and after. And it's a tilt EQ that basically like lowers the lows and enhances the highs, okay? There you go, that's as much as I'm gonna say about it. Next up, I like to use FabFilter Pro MB. I have a preset called Sub Control and Gates. There it is, AlexProMix, Sub Control and Gates. That's one of my presets. You won't have it on your computer, but you guys can chop it down. And basically the way it works is that it like controls the sub lows and then it gates the high end, although it's bypassed. But I'll turn that on so you guys can see what it's doing. So basically it's doing two functions. It's controlling the sub low information, because remember that's being taken care of by the kick. But then whenever the bass like stops sounding, then it like immediately ducks it or like gates it. Watch. So it makes it for a tighter bass sound, okay? But for some reason I decided to turn that off, okay? And this really controls the low end. Next up, Decapitator, I have a preset called Sub Growl. And Sub Growl adds greediness to the bass instrument without necessarily adding or boosting frequencies. And this is what it sounds like. Let me go ahead and turn the mix knob all the way so you guys can actually hear what the plugin is doing. Okay, so that's giving it grit and attitude, and I have the mix dialed back. Let's hear that with the drums. Cool. So up to that point, I was happy with it. But then when I introduced all the vocals and everything else, I felt that the log drum was being lost in the mix. Watch. So it's okay, but to give it more definition, I added another layer of saturation with this one, Phil's Cascade. Now, if you don't know how to use this plugin, it's okay. All you got to do is just boost up this gain right here. And then, which one is it? I think it's this one right here, bias. Again, I just do this instinctively, like I don't even look at the parameters. I just know like I do this and I do this and it sounds better. All right, so let me play it and then you guys can hear it. There it is. So that gives it more focus. It sounds more focused and it's going to cut through the mix better. Okay, and then lastly, I think this was one of the mix revisions feedback that I got from Duncan, which was basically something was popping out too much. So then I used the Split EQ by Eventide to control the transient information. So watch, check it out. Like that right there is like, it's just harsh. So you just reduce that down. And this is interesting because the Split EQ is like, it's not a traditional EQ. The blue one is, but the green one is a transient. So that means like you're bringing down the energy of that transient information without affecting the tone of it. Cool, so let's go ahead and play everything with all the vocals. Here we go. Before the log drum and through the log drum. Here we go.
It took a while, but now I'm sober. Girl, it's only you that I'm wanting. Yeah, you got me high and a strong team. No longer a Casanova. I won't risk us getting over. Girl, it's only you that I'm wanting. Yeah, you got me high and a strong team. Strong thing going.
All right, guys, so that's all the time that we have for this video here on YouTube. Again, this is Alex with AlexProMix, your host. If you're looking for courses, if you're looking for blog post articles, if you're looking for resources, I invite you to alexpromix.com/courses. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Till next time, peace.